Trans people are beautiful. We are never going to stop existing. This administration.
Another day, another ridiculous meltdown that's breaking the internet. We're gonna break down a trans celebrity's viral meltdown that's sparking a lot of outrage and backlash and so much more. On today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where we take on the craziest ideas from across our politics, our media, and the internet, all from an independent perspective. Up first, we've got to talk about Hunter Schafer, a transgender actor and celebrity who is going viral right now after publicly complaining in an 8-minute TikTok about a change that was made to her official government documentation under the Trump administration, to which she is not responding well. Let's take a look at a recap video from CNN.
Trans people are beautiful. We are never going to stop existing. I'm never gonna stop being trans. A letter and a passport can't change that, and this administration.
Trans actress and model Hunter Schafer recently received a new passport with her gender marker listed as M for male. This comes after President Donald Trump signed an executive action that the federal government will only recognize two sexes and that they are not changeable. Hunter took to her TikTok story to share her frustration.
So my initial reaction to this, because our president, is a lot of talk, was like, I'll believe it when I see it. And today, I saw it on my new passport. Male. But I'm pretty sure it's gonna come along with having to out myself to like Border Patrol agents and that whole gig much more often than I would like to or is really necessary.
The Euphoria star said she first changed her gender markers to female nearly a decade ago, around the time she got her driver's license.
And I was shocked. Because I don't know. I just didn't think it was actually going to happen.
So Hunter's lovely and colorful language aside, why is she surprised? That's the wildest part of this video to me. It's like, you knew exactly what was about to happen. You knew what the Trump administration was doing, but you somehow thought that like you were special or it was just all talk and it wouldn't affect you. Why? Are you just like insulated from the real world? Do you think that you're special and the rules don't apply to you? That part really struck me as like, this person is a little bit out of touch, to say the very least. And again, nobody's trying to make you stop existing. That's not a thing. But trans women, they're trans women. They are what they are, but they are biologically male. Their sex is male. You can't change your biological sex. You can live how you please and all within reason accommodate it, but your sex is still male. And for your government documentation to accurately reflect that is not a hate crime. And it does make me scratch my head a little bit when people say like, oh, well, this is violating my rights. There's no right to put inaccurate information on official government documentation. That's not a thing. Now, I do have some sympathy for the kind of confusing place that people are left in if they changed, for example, their birth certificate, their sex on their birth certificate, and their other documents to say female, and now their passport is male. But the truth is you never should have been allowed to do that in the first place because your sex doesn't change and your sex is still male if you are a trans woman. Now, maybe there should be other gender markers for like trans women. Or, I'm even open to the conversation of like, does sex need to be on passports listed? Could we just remove that field? Maybe there's a good reason. There's definitely a good reason that we need it on things like driver's licenses and birth certificates, because we do have to have some way of separating the sexes when it comes to important things like sports and prisons and all that. But on passports, maybe it's not even necessary. But at the end of the day, if we are going to have it, that information should be accurate. And making it accurate is not a personal attack or necessarily anything to do with bigotry or anything like that. Now, Hunter talks about not wanting to out herself to Border Patrol agents, and you hear this a lot, but it's like a Border Patrol agent isn't going to read your documents and harm you. That's not a thing. Now, we're going to go through the absolutely unhinged comments that were left on this TikTok, the broader meltdown, and the piece of Hunter's little viral rant here that I haven't showed you yet that is genuinely deranged. All after a quick message from today's sponsor. Eating healthy is a challenge for me, but I'm determined to feel better and take charge of my health in 2025. That's why I'm excited to share today's sponsor, Lumen. Lumen is an amazing tool that helped me feel better in my body, increase my energy levels, and maintain a healthy weight. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath, and on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. Then, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. How cool is that? So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Brad to get 20% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Brad, BRAD, for 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. And now back to today's show. So let's run through some of the comments that were left on this viral CNN video on TikTok. Having M on her passport is going to put her life in danger while traveling. So much progress lost in just 1 month. It's devastating. I'm terrified for the future of this country. MAGA screams freedom, but passes laws like this. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. You shouldn't be going to a country where you're unsafe if people know that you're transgender, if you are transgender. I feel the same way being gay. I don't go to countries where being gay is illegal or punished, even though maybe I could try to cover it up and get away with it. I'm not playing stupid games like that. Of course, I don't want you to be harmed no matter what, but like some basic element of individual responsibility and personal responsibility does apply here. And there's no freedom to put inaccurate information on a government document. That's, again, not a thing. And look, you weren't even able to update these until a few years ago to have self-ID. So it's not taking us to some dystopian future. This is like how rules operated until a couple of years ago. I want to read you my one favorite viral unhinged tweet about this controversy. It comes from this left-wing guy, Evan, and he tweets, "It's insane that anyone can view this as anything other than the persecution of an oppressed group of people. This is fascism to its core, but too many people have succumbed to the moral panic of transphobia to realize that they're supporting it." Ah, yes. Fascism is when government documents reflect facts. The Biden administration only implemented this self-ID regime where you can just change it, no medical diagnosis, no paperwork, anything in 2021. So like returning policies to 2020 standards, or I guess you could say to 2010 standards, because that's when you were allowed to change your sex if you had a gender dysphoria diagnosis, is not fascism, babe. And y'all are overusing that word to the point where it's becoming like racism, sexism, homophobia, blah, 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 where you dilute its meaning by constantly crying wolf and throwing it around like candy on Halloween, which then limits your ability to actually raise alarm when there is right-wing authoritarianism that crops up on different issues or in different places. So maybe cut it out, babe. Now I have to roll you another clip from Hunter's viral video that just summed up everything that's wrong with this group of people and the activism they've engaged in and the way that they see the world. Take a listen.
And like, I want to acknowledge my privilege, like not only as a like famous or like celebrity trans woman who is white and thin and can adhere to like contemporary beauty standards, and I can participate in all of that. And I pass, and it still happened. And I guess I'm just sort of scared of the way this stuff like slowly gets implemented. Because things just sort of like start happening. I think as we've seen in like historical rises of fascism and this sort of, everything that this new administration kind of represents.
You know, guys, before I discuss this clip, I want to just start by acknowledging my privilege as somebody who's just gorgeous, super intelligent, 10 out of 10 body, extremely kind, super funny, beautiful, God's gift to earth. I just want to take a sec to acknowledge my privilege before I speak on that. Babe, you sound so incredibly arrogant and so wild. It's like it's not giving humble whatsoever. It's the biggest humble brag. It's like, oh, I want to acknowledge my privilege, but here I'll just use that actually as an opportunity to talk about how pretty I think I am. Like, I'm sorry, if you have to open any conversation with I am this part of my identity and that affects how qualified I am to speak, or I have to acknowledge this part of me that's privileged and bad, you're in a cult and you're speaking to crazy people, because normal people assess what somebody is saying based on whether it is true or false, whether it makes sense or whether it doesn't, whether the logic is strong or whether the math is not mathing. They don't assess, oh, that's a good point or not, based on your skin color, based on how wealthy you are, based on how pretty you are. Like, that is not a normal way to look at life. That's actually kind of demonic. And the fact that anybody thinks that's like progressive or woke is so wild to me. And again, babe, it is not fascism to label you as male on your documents when you are male. I just don't know how much more they can push into this unreasonable territory before even people who are sympathetic to them, living their best lives and being free and being happy and having the pursuit of freedom like every American. And if that means living as a woman and presenting as a woman, okay, fine by me. But even people like me who are sympathetic to that plight are going to lose patience at some point if y'all continue in this hysterical and delusional manner. But of course, all the LGBT media and activists and liberal media more broadly are praising Hunter's stunning bravery and talking about how mean the Trump administration is. Y'all don't seem to get it. Outside of your hyper-liberal echo chamber and media bubble, outside of the Acela corridor and outside of New York City, normal people don't find it controversial that biological sex is real and can't be changed, and that government documents need to reflect biology, not self-perceived identity. This is not something people are ever going to feel so bad for the rich celebrity about, that their paperwork doesn't perfectly affirm how they feel inside as they, globe-trot and go across the world in their travels. It's not ever going to be a winning issue for y'all. And at some point, I hope y'all can wake up, because right now you are just driving this movement and this community off a cliff in terms of public support and sympathy. Other than that, though, you're doing amazing, sweetie. Let me know what you think. Do you feel bad for Hunter? Are you surprised that this rant is going viral? Let me know in the comments. I do take the time to read the comments. I always love hearing what you guys have to say. And do hit that like button while you're at it. Y'all, they keep saying over and over again that, like, biology is fascism now. And that's absurd. But do you know what is kind of fascist? What is giving fascism a little bit? Murdering people in cold blood because you disagree with them and don't like them. No process, no trial, no crimes alleged or committed, just killing people in cold blood, tracking them down, murdering family man, father of two, because you have big policy disagreements with the system that he works in. Yet, many on the woke left, many young people in particular, are cheering for somebody who's accused of doing that. Luigi Mangione, the alleged killer who allegedly killed Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Well, Luigi just made his first court appearance in a preliminary hearing in New York City, and throngs of adoring fans and romantic admirers, to put it, I guess, in a PG-13 manner, were outside the courtroom chanting for him to be freed. Let's take a look at some interesting, I guess, footage that was captured near the courthouse.
I'm here with my friends because we support Luigi Mangione for unaliving CEO Brian Thompson, because we take a stand. We take a stand, and most of the world as well is tired of insurance companies being corrupt.
Hey, so this is actually insane. Imagine that young woman that you just saw, that you just heard from, going with your face up on camera to a reporter. This was from the Daily Mail, that clip I just played. And saying, yeah, we support the guy who murdered someone, allegedly. But they're not saying, when they say free Luigi, let's be very clear about something. They're not saying he's innocent. I'm always believing innocent until proven guilty, though he sure looks guilty in this case. But like, they're not saying free him because he's innocent, he's being framed. No, they're saying free him because he's hot and because we support the murder we believe he did. That is demonic. That is unhinged. That is psycho. And to get up with your whole chest, with your whole face on camera and talk about it, like, girl, your Google results are about to be haunted for life, and deservedly so, honestly. Now, the way social media responded to this man's court appearance was by talking about how hot he is and how good he looked at trial. I mean, it's some of the most unhinged stuff I've seen on TikTok, and like, that's saying something. Take a listen to this little compilation I made for you guys because I saw this stuff and it gave me permanent brain damage, so you have to suffer too.
He could hit me with a fucking car. He could run me over. He could hit me with a car and then back up and do it again. And I would be like, baby, I'm so sorry. I get that.
We got new pics of him in forest green. The cars outside were clearly on his team. Luigi serving in green.
Babe, wake up. A whole new Luigi photo shoot just dropped. You gotta wake up the kids. Come on, this is huge news. Oh my god.
I guarantee you Luigi did not need to be wearing that bulletproof vest. But thank you, because he looked the good in it. He looks delicioso. He looks good. When you fucking pigs wear it, it looks like a turkey wrapped in bacon is trying to bust out, bitch. But, you know, I understand why you guys put a vest on him. Because you want him to think that people out here are after him. That people out here are mad at him. No, the only thing they're after is not what you think it's for. They want that Luigi Mangione deep. That's what they want.
I just have no words for some of these people. I mean, look, sure, he's an attractive guy, but he's accused and looks almost certainly guilty of literal terrorism, literal politically motivated acts of targeted violence to try to spread a political message. That is the textbook definition of terrorism. And of course, the brutal murder accomplished nothing. He's been replaced with another CEO. The healthcare system isn't somehow reformed because of this. If anything, it made insurance people look more sympathetic. I'm not telling y'all you can't be upset about US healthcare, which is messed up beyond belief. You can't be mad at insurance companies. Of course you can. I'm sure they do all sorts of terrible stuff. But murdering people that you disagree with or even hate in cold blood is not the answer. And a society that glamorizes that or thirsts for it is deeply sick. Deeply, deeply sick in the head. And guys, it's not just a couple of TikTokers. Polling shows that a plurality, 41% of young people support what he did and said it was acceptable. Thankfully, only 17% of the broader public shares that view, but by age group, 18 to 29-year-olds, nearly half think it's okay to just murder people you disagree with in cold blood. No due process, no trial, no crimes accused or proven whatsoever. Just killing people in the streets because you feel like it and you don't like them and you disagree with the system they represent. That's psychotic. That's so dangerous. I can't explain to you enough that that is a belief system that these young people hold, and that if they become the majority one day and a huge portion of our society believes that, literally threatens the fabric of our civilization. I really try not to engage in hyperbole. I try not to overstate stuff and say stuff's the end of the world, but that belief system does threaten civilization, because a society where people just kill each other willy-nilly over disagreements and it's fair game and viewed as morally acceptable is a society that descends into anarchy. Not law and order, not rule of law, not a democratic society where you solve your differences at the ballot box, where you prosecute criminals in a fair system. It is anarchy. It is a free-for-all. And guess what, babe? If you are okay with this logic, because say that you're very upset with the US healthcare system, you hate insurance companies, they can do this to Planned Parenthood executives. They can do this to trans activists. Like, if you want to set this rule that violence is fair game, and God forbid a jury, and I worry that there's a small chance this could happen, a jury just nullifies it and just lets him go, not guilty, even if, like, and I'm describing in a situation where the evidence showed he's guilty, but the jury just decides to let him go because they agree with him or whatever, they share this 41%'s view, that would be a disaster. And I think would lead to a spree of political violence in this country that could actually spiral us into anarchy. Meanwhile, TikTokers and protesters are just obsessed with how good he looks in green. Y'all are cracked in the head. And You are sucking my hope and my optimism about the future of American society. You are sucking it from my soul in real time. But other than that, though, everything's great. This is fine. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you disagree with me? Do you somehow support Luigi? I've been surprised to see that there's some support for his actions across the political spectrum. I think it's totally wrong and people of all political stripes should be against this. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. And now we're going to talk about another wild moment from CPAC, the massive conservative political conference that just happened, where Jack Posobiec, a right-wing influencer who made his name pushing a conspiracy theory called Pizzagate that turned out to totally not be true, but he's now like a big person on the right, said something that I think is kind of wild about Trump and about the Constitution. Take a listen to this clip.
Donald Trump is not violating the Constitution. Donald Trump is restoring the American Constitution. Donald Trump is the living embodiment of the American Constitution. Donald Trump is embodying the values of our founding fathers for the first time in a long time in Washington, D.C. President Trump came up and he found the destiny of the American people lying in the gutter. And he picked it up with his bare hands and he yelled, "Fight, fight, fight!" And the American people delivered their mandate to him and put it on his head. And as President Trump himself said just a few days ago, a man who saves his nation violates no law. That is the way forward in America.
Yeah, so I've said this many times. I don't believe that MAGA is a fascist movement or that Trump is a fascist. And I don't even believe that Trump supporters are in a cult or anything like that. But this guy, yeah, he's not beating the fascist allegations. He's not beating the cult allegations, not with this one. It's wild to me that such an extreme and unreliable figure is even elevated to a position of prominence in today's conservative movement. Like, the standards are just nowhere to be found when you made your name pushing a hoax, pushing a fake conspiracy theory. But anyway, on the substance of what he said, it is so wild to see him invoke the founding fathers because the message he's conveying here would make them roll over in their grave. They did not want a king. They did not want a leader who was the law in and of himself. They specifically rebelled against that and set up a constitutional order with strict checks and balances meant to hold every politician in check, not anyone being the living embodiment of the Constitution. No, babe, that would imply that like whatever he does is constitutional. That is not the case. That is totally anathema to the system that our Constitution sets up, which is specifically meant to curtail the president and Congress and the judicial branch and have them all check each other because they didn't trust anybody. The whole point of the Constitution is to limit politicians' power. And every politician, basically every president in at least in my lifetime, has violated the Constitution in one way or another. The Supreme Court did rule against Trump on several occasions that things that he did were unconstitutional. And he doesn't just get to say, I am the living embodiment of the Constitution, I can do whatever I want. That actually would be fascism. Thankfully, Trump isn't doing that. He says he will abide by court rulings, but the fact that prominent supporters like this actually seem to want him to act like a king, that's insane and not conservative. At least not conservative in the sense of the conservatives that I grew up with, who are supposed to want to conserve the United States Constitution, not rip it up. And him saying this bit about like, well, you know, he who saves his country violates no law, this fake Napoleon quote, Napoleon never actually said it, is so wild. Because imagine that Barack Obama supporters had said, Obama, no, he is the living embodiment of the Constitution. When he tries to do something and they say it's unconstitutional, well, he's saving the country. So he can break no law if he's saving the country. People like this, and many of my friends on the right, would have screamed bloody murder. They would have said that this is authoritarianism, this is communism, all that, and I would have been with them. And I'm sorry, but the vision of a muscular president who is the embodiment of the law and can do whatever is necessary to save the country that Jack Posobiec here is popping off about to applause at a conservative political conference is deeply disturbing and frightening and tells me that many of my friends on the right, I did see a lot of people say like, hang on, we like Trump, but we don't agree with this. But many of my friends on the right who have gone along with this and are caught up in this kind of cult of personality have truly lost their way. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't yet, and we'll talk again real soon.